Welcome to Knock 'em Dead, a comedy podcast that deals with the one thing we all experience, yet never talk about: death. Episode 5, The Aftermath. So your loved one has bought the farm, kicked the bucket, cashed in their chips to the great Bellagio in the sky, and you suddenly find yourself in a Grim Reaper-sponsored family reunion with the people you spend your entire life trying not to reunion with. And if family reunions are already awkward, this one is even more divorce settlement / asking for a prenup vibe, except you're all standing on a razor blade of grief and guilt. Whether the person, formerly known as alive, made a plan or not, the aftermath can be messy, even if there isn't a crime scene. Because it's never really about the deceased, and more about resolving your second cousin twice remove's abandonment issues, which, quite frankly, they earned. Weirdo. My mom had pancreatic cancer, and she still thought divvying up her things made death seem too real. She wasn't even in the 1%, even if you use the metric system. No big money, but we still had a Storage Wars meets Breaking Bad family throwdown that was totally justified because Mom's Scooby-Doo jelly jar collectibles are mine. Well, they're not currently in my possession, but they will be. So how do you act? How do you deal with loss and stare into the face of a pain that you never could have imagined, all the while watching your uncle get drunk and fight your other uncle during the eulogy? Well, we're here to help. I'm Rachel Bradley, with my co-host, Christopher Titus. This is Knock 'em Dead. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Knock 'em Dead. I'm Rachel Bradley with my co-host,
Christopher Titus. How you doing, people?
And we have a big surprise today, but probably not that big of a surprise. With us, as always, on our other podcast, the Titus Podcast, is the Hylinder.
Yay!
Hi, everybody. My name's Ken Hyland.
And you know
Hylander.
Since
I
we're
feel
still
like
new,
we have a lot of crossover.
since we're still new in this, can you tell the people kind of what this is about? Why do we do this podcast?
We do this podcast because we have all had to deal with death in varying ways and degrees, and have found it to be completely and absolutely absurd. And we wanted to approach it through comedy because it's such a heavy topic, especially in the United States. Other countries, by the way, this comes out the day after the Day of the Dead on our calendar. And that's based on a country that really celebrates the dead. And we don't. We're terrified of it. It's a sad, scary thing.
It has to be heavy. It has to be heavy. And the thing is, it's the one thing that I can guarantee is going to happen.
Right.
Guess what, everybody? It's going to happen. You're going. So we were trying to give people access to a place where it didn't seem so heavy. Because even if you go, like, every time I'm going to a funeral home or dealt with somebody, they're just so, hello, so we're so sorry for your loss. And like, it happened, man.
He was a wonderful, wonderful person.
Everything's it's gonna be $12,000. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
So that's why you're upset. I get why you're solemn now, because you had to tell me it was
Get
12
rid of all
grand.
these flowers, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Jesus.
He's dead. He can't see this shit.
And I'll tell you guys, just to pull the curtain back a little bit, in trying to find guests that we want or that we like, I have noticed a temperature change when I say, for example, we had a corpse composter that was going to be on this
Which
month,
is an absurd job anyway.
Yeah. And I said,
Could've just said
it's
composter.
a comedy podcast, right? And she instantly got very weird. Oh, well, I don't know if I'm that funny. And I said, no, you don't have to be funny. We're going to do that. That's what we do for a living. But also, we're not going to make fun of it.
Right.
We're going to make, point at the absurdity that surrounds it, because that will give people access to it.
Maybe we should stop telling.
No. Then she ghosted me. So
Maybe. Wow, which is ironic in death.
it really was.
Can I say that maybe we should stop telling people's comedy? Because we'll just do comedy without telling them.
I kind of feel like some of these people, when you talk to them, it reminds me of from your second special, Fifth Annual End of the World Tour, where you do the Mr. Titus, we are so sorry for your loss. They're like that. And so I feel like I need to warn them a little bit.
No, it's the opposite. Once they're here, then we get to go. And then I think they'll warm up. So we don't tell.
And as more episodes we do more episodes.
Right.
They'll understand what they're getting.
Yeah, what we're doing.
Yeah.
We'll get
Like, I want a funny funeral director. Anybody? I need a funeral director.
Yes, there you go.
That's on their resume.
No, we don't need to be funny. We just need you want to talk to us about it. We don't need you. You don't. That's the thing. When you tell people they have to be funny,
I never said that.
You said we need a funny funeral director.
Well, that's what I want. That's my wish list. That's what I would love to have. But I understand that's probably not going to happen. But what I say is, we're two comedians who we have a podcast about death, and it's like, whoa.
We just want a normal funeral director, a normal human being, just that you can come in and you joke around with your friends.
Can have a conversation, and when we ask a question, doesn't just go, yes. Then say nothing else.
Usually the guest is zoomed in on that screen. Can we just address how tight, like... you
can back it up.
I like that Ken's whole thing that he wants to talk about today is the camera angles and the editing. Yeah.
So
it's like, hospice nurse. But what's up with that camera angle?
Do you see this production we're doing?
You're killing me.
Oh God, he's doing puns on this.
We're not
done.
As long as don't get anybody's camera, it messes them up.
So we wanted to talk about table today. We just called it the aftermath because it's the only word I could think of, and it entails so many things. And we could do 10 episodes on this of what remains after someone passes away and how surprising it sometimes is. And I actually have things that I can't talk about because so many people are still living that would be offended.
You're talking about how bizarre things get. Like, I always say this, and you've heard me say this for many years, weddings and funerals, man. It's almost like funerals clear out everybody's bullshit because this person died and who they are and their true feelings about the person come out. My brother, when dad passed, I don't think Dave was ready for it at all. I mean, it's funny because my dad had 4 or 5 heart attacks. I knew that eventually, in fact, that the week before dad, I had driven away from his house and I said, there's going to be a dad drive away and he's not going to be here anymore. And it was that week he died.
That's so, you always tell that story to me. Like, we've talked about it. And I always think that there was because you and your dad were so connected in a very strange way. And it seems like you almost knew. So to be clear, he drove away from his dad.
I got a block away. I pulled out of the driveway. He was. I still remember he was wearing a little red plaid shirt and he was waving. And we backed out, and it was just so sad because he had lost a heart attack to taken like the Ken Titus from him that we played on the show. They'd taken that bad motherfucker that would like get out and punch a guy's car window. They'd taken that out of him, and he was just a 58-year-old man who had 4 heart attacks, and he was weak. And he was waving. We were going to skiing, and I got about a block away, and I just started sobbing, and I just go, "There's gonna be a day I drive away, and he's not gonna be here anymore." And it was that week he died.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know he died at 58.
Yeah.
That's really young.
I'm older than my father was when he died.
So that was a weird year for him, right? Because when he woke up that morning on his birthday, it was kind of like,
TikTok, here we go.
I got to get through 365 of these and then I'm safe.
Don't wave to Jet.
Yeah, exactly. I don't wave to my kid anymore. Grandpa Titus, 40.
But you didn't finish. So when your dad, you knew you had you were preparing for your dad to go.
So it happened. We got a call at the cabin and we came back and then it's weird how all of a sudden, being the oldest kid, I became the manager of the death. It was really weird. Yeah. And everybody else wanted to be involved. And so I got there. My sister Shannon was freaking out. But she's kind of like me. She gets business. My brother David took his car. I had a Dodge Viper at the time. He actually took my Viper and disappeared. He disappeared. He just, and I finally, he won't pick his phone for like a day and a half. And I finally get a hold of him. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, and he's sobbing. He's just sobbing. Why did this have to happen? I don't know what to do with my life. I don't know where I'm going to go anymore. I don't know. And this wasn't my dad's real kid. This was like Nancy's kid. And I don't know what I'm doing. And I had to talk him down on the phone while he was driving around.
But your dad raised him like his own.
Yeah, he did. And
so people feel like they lose their anchor. They lose like their grounding.
Yeah, it's something.
It is surreal. Yeah.
Well, we have this with Grandma's house too. Is like there was a place we used to go that was so grounded in love and home.
Yeah.
And now
it was
that
our
is gone.
home
Yeah.
base, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I mean, people that listen to the Titus podcast know that I periodically would disappear or zoom in because I was at grandma's throughout the year. I would go for a week or more at a time. And
Depending on what was going on, where you were going, or what operation she was having.
exactly. And it was safe space and home base. And it was that way, I think, for my whole family, that there was this anchor that was there that we could get to if we needed to. And we have talked about like how surreal that's gone.
Yeah.
So if we go back there where I'm from, we would have to stay in a hotel. Like, it's very surreal. We're still dealing with this.
That's why we're really sad she's dead, because we have to pay for a hotel
No,
now.
I mean, how extra heartbreaking it will be. I still need to finish. Guys, 6 years in, we still have a storage unit of my mom's stuff that I would love to close out, but not everyone is as motivated.
It's not even that. It's part of the aftermath, what you said. It's there's some people that they don't. There's a finality to cleaning out that storage unit that people have to deal with, and it's almost like admitting his mom's storage unit. And there's the problem with this is what I'll tell you with the aftermath. There's two ways the aftermath can play out, and it has to do with the person still being alive when they're here. You have to get clear and clean with people quick.
Mm-hmm.
If there's something between some weird slight, because this is what happened to some people in my life. My dad and I were clean. We were clean, you know?
My mom and I.
Yeah. And grandma. So there was sadness, of course, but there was no, oh God, if only. Yeah. There's this wave of guilt. If you haven't cleared up whatever's between you and that person, there's this wave of bullshit that when they die, that hits you like a tsunami. It's horrible.
And it's such a weight because you put off or don't even realize it's there. That things that you should have resolved or had with you there. Now it's like, okay, you better figure it out because you can't talk to this person anymore. Yep. Now you have to deal with your siblings if there's siblings involved.
Yes.
And all that shit comes up that you thought was gone or suppressed or whatever is sitting there. And now it's like, that I take
all
this
of a
blanket.
sudden you find yourself in business with your siblings and cousins or uncle or whatever it is.
This thing wrecks people though. Let's do the emotional part. This wrecks people. I mean,
the unfinished business part. Well, that's what I'm saying is that. So I was clear with the two most major deaths that I have dealt with, but not everyone else was, and that really affects everything else in trying to close things out, trying to navigate a will or lack thereof, trying to decide who gets what, whatever that is. Then you add unresolved emotions, guilt, shame, and throw in then stuff and money. It's really just awesome.
and in the midst of all that grief. So now you're dealing with the loss of somebody and people who had things like mom loved you better. If there's all this other bullshit that goes on it. So it's not just what someone died, that's it, let's all handle it. There's all this life stuff that happens at the same time and so what I would say to you, everybody, is number one, if there's somebody in your life, especially if it's a parent, or if you're a parent and you have older siblings, whatever it is, brothers, sisters, do me a favor, call them, and you can make the aftermath less by clearing it up. I know it. You think, no, I'll do it one day. I'm telling you, one day could be never come because a guy that was a big fan of the show, came to every show we've ever done.
Can we say this? His name was Jeff Hart.
Jeff Hart was great.
Lived in upstate New York. Was one of the most supportive. You would know him. Every COVID show we did, he bought the VIP after party tickets. Every shirt I put out, he bought 5 for different people. Every show we did up there, he was there and brought us gifts. And
always brought us gifts.
We just found out that his nephew emailed us that he was 50 something, sat down at his dinner table watching a movie, eating Chinese food alone, and just had a heart attack, and that was it. Or no, they think a blood clot in his leg traveled to his brain. While he was in the middle, they found him in his dinner with the TV still going.
What movie was he watching?
Doctor Who.
Well, that'll do it.
Wow.
He was a huge Doctor Who fan. I don't know what movie he was watching.
But that's what I'm saying is that. So there is no there is no one day. It's today.
Yeah, and you don't know when it's coming.
So if you want to fix it, if you want to make the aftermath less, get involved and just go look. And here's the thing. Here's what I learned with my dad. My dad never quite, when I finally got my dad and I cleaned it up with my dad, he never really cleaned it up with me. The best I got, but I cleaned it up with him. And that's what you need. It's not about them. It's not about forgiving them. It's about making sure you're okay with this person. Let them know you.
It is so hard though, when that person continues to be unwilling to change what is, right? Like I experienced
it's frustrating to not hear I love you and I'm sorry too.
And I'm not gonna let my wife keep you out of my house anymore, or whatever it is.
These are just vagaries. She's not talking about something specific.
Well, I am. I'm talking about
on Tuesday, on November.
Whatever it is that has created this distance. It's hard when they won't then be like, you know what, you're right. And now we're going to do this and it's going to be great. I know, and I'm very close to my dad. I talk to my dad just about every day. And I do get there when I can finally. But not that I physically can't. I go a lot. I just often am told, we have to change that. But I know no matter what, that when my father passes away, it's going to be a complete and utter nightmare. And there's nothing, you have to really disentangle yourself from any expectations, financial, emotional, or otherwise. It's you have to give it up and keep giving it up.
The other thing that's revealed in that is that we were talking about having an anchor and siblings.
Yeah.
Is that you until this happens, you don't know your relationship with your siblings and how their relationship with the deceased was.
That's what I was.
That's what I noticed. Yeah. That's what things you're like, wow, you guys are all acting insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe others too. Yeah.
Some people identify love in different ways. So let's say, for example, one of my siblings might think that being in charge of stuff or getting money means that they're loved, right? Well, then you get another sibling that's like, all you care about is money. I'm not saying this happened, but
also vagaries.
And totally vagaries. These are possibles.
And maybe threatened a lawsuit.
Maybe
over said.
This is the aftermath. Mm-hmm. This is where it gets weird, where you don't know. Like all of a sudden, it's like, so I remember when Dad died, his wife, who he'd already separated from, his sixth wife he'd separated from, was living in the house, and she showed up and she came in and said, I want to meet everybody at the house. So we all met, my sister, brother, and myself, and we're there. I think Kathy was there too. And she came in, she goes, I want you to know that I'm the wife, so I get everything. That was her first sentence. And
I had a similar, yes.
And it was like, and you're like, it was like, what? Like, it wasn't like, wow, I loved Kenny, he was awesome. Yeah. It was like, I'm the wife, so I get everything. And I went, it's funny, at the time, I think it was my first moment of maturity. I went, okay. Because I knew my dad had taken me aside. It's another thing too, for everybody, that if you're getting older, like, take someone aside and go, someone you trust, and go, here's where everything is. Here's what I want done. Make sure it happens.
Do it. You guys, honestly, do it. My mom didn't want to face it. And so my mom did not itemize, did not make a list of who would get what. And my mom wasn't super wealthy. I mean, she did well, but it still created massive problems after, and the threat of a lawsuit, because
it'll make the aftermath easier.
Yeah.
If you actually take some time. So my dad had this box. My dad actually used to put out, he did prenups, like he had them printed out as a gross.
He did. We have one of them.
He would actually sign, women sign, they had living together.
Living agreement. Like a first living agreement.
He had a living agreement.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He
literally, what would have been Xeroxed back then, a stack of them for the women. He's not making a joke. We have one of them. No,
this is
we have one in a photo album at our house.
Oh my God, that's a t-shirt. That's got to be a t-shirt.
One that wasn't filled out. Like, it was like, just in case.
Yes.
It's a standard.
Way before it was cool. Yeah. Way before all this Me Too stuff happened. My dad was like, can you sign this?
Yeah.
Why? Because we're going to get in the hot tub. Sign this.
Yeah.
This is hot girl signature here.
Yeah, exactly.
So when Pat came in, and it was all about stuff. It was all about, I get the house, I get this, I get that. And I remember Dad had said, in this lot, he had this blue lockbox, and he put all my birth certificate, his birth, like those cool, like the top, like he wasn't irresponsible totally. The shit that needed to be in there was there. And I found a copy of their prenup, and it basically said she got the dryer or the washer. She got the dryer, and there was around the window, there was like a doily thing that she'd put up. It was she wanted it up. Dad didn't give a shit about that. He was like, what the fuck? My dad was this guy. Fuck are you putting that up for? It was just this trim that went around the top of the window. So
specific. A doily.
Dude, it was not a doily. It was like a valance, but it was very fluffy and girly.
Yeah.
And so I read it, and that's what she gets. And I call my sister and my brother, like, all right, guys, everyone's meeting me at Kinko's. So this is our aftermath. So we had to plan Dad's funeral, went to the funeral home, and that's where the guy said, we actually told him we wanted, by the way, that bit in my show was true, cardboard box. And the guy was like, well, we have a rental casket. And my brother said, who brought it back? So it was weird. So we got that all done. That was weird too, because everybody has their thing. That's another thing. Please fix your funeral arrangements, because if you don't, what ends up happening is everybody thinks they know what you would want.
Yeah.
And everybody, and if that was true, you guys would all have the same thing, but you don't. It's all over the place.
I had this similar thing too, before you get back to that I started to plan my mom's service and planned on her being cremated. And my sister freaked out because she said that's not what she would have wanted. That she said Mom was much more traditional and she would have wanted a traditional. And I'm thinking, my mom was not at all traditional. But so that also became a fight over whether or not she was buried or cremated, whether or not her body was in the casket at the service was a big deal.
Before you continue, so what you're pitching is, I was thinking about this, is like that conversation. So let's say somebody gets news, oh my gosh, terminal, something. They're about to go.
Yeah.
Now you have to go. Somebody has to take the reins and gather and fucking Zoom call all the siblings and start the conversation, and without fear of everyone else going, what are you trying to rush? What are you trying to kill him? What are you trying?
That's the weird part, right? That's why we're trying to do this podcast.
I was going to say, so just, hey, share this podcast that everybody goes through this, and it is going to be an issue. So you're going to have to do it.
Yeah. And
just share this clip.
It makes it harder on your loved ones too. I know my mom would not have wanted some of the things that happened.
No.
I know for a fact that grandma would not have wanted the things that happened after she went, but people, they don't really want to face it that logistically.
Yeah.
So,
and then you could clarify things.
We have a trust, but I was just thinking just now that I should sit down and I need to do everything again. And I will this week.
Only in a few years of our trust, now things have changed. So we've been saying we got to.
So do I think? So it's such a weird thing. So we don't believe in mediums, ghosts, and luck and karma, whatever. So you think if you start talking about death, death's going to come after you. Death goes, hey, wait,
Mm-hmm.
someone's talking about
like
me.
It's a secret.
Hey, whoa. That's not going to happen.
Went to Kinko's.
So I go to Kinko's, and we made 6 copies of my dad's prenup. So everyone I wanted everybody to have their own copy, because
the one that she signed.
Yes.
Okay.
Prenup, and then his will too. I had his will too, because I wanted everybody to go, listen, we don't have to argue. Here's what Dad wanted.
Right.
Yeah.
And he was good enough to do that. So and then we stayed up till 3 a.m. We did his program. The 3 of us, my brother, my sister, and I, stayed at Kinko's till like 2, 3 in the morning. It was 24-hour Kinko's before it became whatever it is now, FedEx. And we designed his program. We picked the poem we wanted. We wrote each sort of paragraph, and we did it together. And because of that, it really, so then the next day we get his funeral plan. We got the day we do all this stuff. The next day we told his wife Pat that we would meet her at the house. So she shows up at the house for the second day, and she goes, all right, so I want, you guys, if there's 1 or 2 things you guys want, you guys can go through the house. And I go, that's really not going to happen. And we all kind of went, and we put our thing on the table. And I was like, I was going through this, and the only thing you get is the wash and the mat. She goes, what? I go, here's your copy. And I handed her a copy. I go, if you look what you signed, I go, this is.
Did she forget that she signed it?
She was hoping maybe
we knew about it.
Yeah.
Because it's not like his dad hired lawyers and it was.
But my dad had been, you got to remember, a man with 6 divorces or 5 divorces, and this new one, he was like, he's like, motherfucker, we're getting this right.
Yeah.
So she just and Kathy was there too, because I want Kathy to be there, because I didn't want her to unquote. I wanted like a the matriarch of our family.
Front,
yeah. And man, she just crumbled. She was so fucking mad.
And I want the dryer.
Yeah. She was like, I'll pick it up. She did. The next day, she got that dryer, and that balance it was gone. She's getting what she wanted. So now the weird part about how this works is that was good, and that unified my sister and my brother and I, and Kathy in a way. And then what happened was, David wasn't my dad's actual son, and biological son, and he didn't put anything in the will for David. So I called, and I said to my sister, I go, we need to figure this out.
It's great.
And she goes, nothing. He gets nothing. She'd already added up her half.
Oh.
And so David, so I had the TV show and stuff. So I gave him some stuff. I gave him a truck and some stuff, but it wasn't, he.
So that activated stuff in him.
Yes. He never felt like, yes. And so I kind of still have a regret about that, but that's the aftermath in that sense. And then there's stuff that happens all the time. Like the infighting with the family is one thing. You had someone die recently in your family, right?
Yeah. A couple of years ago, my dad passed away.
Right.
And it was the same exact thing. He didn't plan for it. There was no documentation about what to do with the house and what to do with all the things in the house and everything. So we had to rally together. Luckily, most of us are sane. And
by the way,
there's always one.
That's noted for the court. That's noted for the court, by the way.
Vagaries. Exactly.
Most of us are sane. Noted for the court. He said everybody was sane. Motivated. He named nobody specific who wasn't sane.
This is just generic.
Exactly right.
Making it up. And we got together, and we had to get on the phone every month and start to kind of figure out, have a spreadsheet, and who's going to get what and how we're going to coordinate people showing up to the house, and somebody's going to go in on Tuesday night, and then this person, and let's just divvy up all the responsibilities. Who's going to do the headstone? Who's going to handle this? And it probably took us, it feels like a year. It feels like a year to just handle everything.
Yeah.
And during the whole time, I discovered that I was the one person who, like, I don't know, I'm sure you guys know that from our other podcast, how abusive my father. He was an alcoholic, and he was abusive.
Yeah.
From when I was young. So he wasn't my anchor.
Yeah.
My anchor was gone. Right. So when he passed away, I was just like,
yeah,
fine.
I had that about mom.
For my other siblings, he was, and I had no idea. And
wait, he was nice to your siblings?
Are you the oldest?
I'm the second oldest, but I'm the oldest male. So I got the.
He got better after you.
Yeah, I think he got alcohol.
Weakened
his tolerance. After decades, I think.
Yeah.
It took like a couple more cases of beer per day.
So, wow. So they were emotional and upset, and you just wanted to handle things and move on.
Yeah, I showed up to the funeral, and they were just bawling, and I was kind of in shock. Because all this time we had all shared war stories of him, so nobody was like, oh my God, he's my shining light, he's my anchor, and I was just like.
That happens at funerals too, though. Sometimes people, it's weird, man. There's a theatrical element I've noticed to people at funerals that you go, you seem to be full of shit right now, because we've been talking about this for 2 decades.
You're trying to get the house.
And now you're up there talking about like you were the biggest, they were my touchstone for life. And you wouldn't even come home for Christmas.
We haven't seen you in 5 years.
Yeah, the fuck are you talking about? Yeah. And that was the weird part about, again, vagaries, but there's something about some stuff that happened during my dad's funeral that I was like, what?
Well, a week ago, you said he was a fucking dirtbag.
I keep thinking,
quote, I wish he was fucking dead. Remember that? Remember you saying that?
Today he is.
Also, like how people felt about them. Like my Uncle Wayne passed away. That was my first major death. My dad's little brother. Just to fast forward, my uncle was in the closet. He was gay. And in hindsight, quite clearly gay. Always, I say it in my new
Hindsight.
show.
Owned you're not the hindsight with the gay guys.
I got my decorating taste from him. He always had the most beautiful homes. I say this in my show, with white carpet and marble and crystal everywhere. He had crystal decanters with sherry.
He was like Liberace.
Yes,
yeah, exactly.
And he always owned those homes with his best buddy guy friends, who always left town when my family would
and all had the
visit.
same mustache.
One of the houses he had, the guy he owned it with, died of AIDS in 1993. So really, in hindsight, I think he might have been gay.
Maybe.
But I guess my dad and my grandmother would not have been okay with that. So my Uncle Wayne passes away, and that ended up being a carnival of stuff as well, and people taking things that weren't theirs and going back early with a U-Haul and removing packed up boxes that were my dad. Yeah, it's a
lot of carnival things in there.
Like not the most fun carnival I've ever been to. But my uncle, my grandfather, we called him Uncle James because he was a step grandfather. So when I was born, they were already calling him Uncle James. He would have been the stepfather of my uncle and my dad. He's walking around at the wake and before the funeral, like grabbing me by the arm and getting right in my face and saying, "Are you saved?" Because Wayne lived a life of sin. And I'm thinking, my Uncle Wayne was like the best.
Nice guy.
He built houses for Habitat for Humanities. Like, my uncle made a difference in people's lives. So he's going around doing this, talking about sin. Well, then they don't let anybody speak at the service. My father and my grandfather, they have the very Southern Baptist, old creepy preacher guy preach on living a life of sin and how you won't go to heaven. That's his service. And then they hit play on a canned karaoke machine song, like gospel.
Did the donation basket go around too?
Yeah. Yes.
What?
Yes. And they took, and did an altar call at my uncle's service. My uncle had so many people whose lives he had affected because he gave his time, like I said, to different charities, helped people that all...
He was gay Jimmy Carter, let's be honest.
All of them ended up holding a different service after that because everyone was so heartbroken at how it went. It was the most horrible thing I have ever
So
encountered.
it was like, fuck this. We got to do an actual one. I don't know what the fuck this was.
And the thing is that people think that they do it. So that's what happens in the aftermath is people do the service for them. And it's really kind of fun. But when we did Dad's funeral, it was so weird, man. Again, everybody puts on this thing. I said, our father, they agreed that, look, Dad was wild. He was nuts. He was fun. He was funny. He was crazy.
Yeah.
He was harsh. And so so Shannon wanted him. My lovely sister wanted him. I want the open casket. And I was like, no. She's like, yes. And no. Yes. And then Pat said she wanted it.
Yeah.
And by the way, open casket people, just if you haven't been through a funeral or haven't seen this, what happens is the person's face starts to slide up their skull. So it's just gravity pulling down. There's no muscles to hold it anymore. So it's just, they don't
It's a Madame Tussauds
I will
body.
say this, though. Grandma looked like Grandma after you guys fixed her.
Well, so who would have ever thought, right? We'll be right back. But you need to know this episode is brought to you by
HelloFresh. Yes.
HelloFresh is a very close personal friend of ours.
It really is. We've hung out with HelloFresh for a couple years.
We really have. They have not let us down yet. I always, in any relationship, expect them to let me down. So HelloFresh is a meal delivery service, but but you cook the meal and they show you exactly how to cook the meal. You don't have to leave your house. Nope. It comes to your door and it's fresh, seasonal ingredients separated. Each recipe is in its own bag. You get the recipe card too. You actually they run you through everything. You basically have all the exact amount of ingredients. And I will say this, follow the recipe. Every time we have it, there's not one. Okay, so we've had maybe 30 or 40 different entrees from that? At least, yeah.
So, I always say this. It makes you look at the food. You take a bite and you go,
what?
Yeah, exactly.
Man, we have had some stuff, and sometimes I'll tell you. So you
And
can
it's stuff that I didn't.
you
think
can
was
pick
something.
how many meals a day and for a week, and how many people. And so we often will do the for 4 people, so we have leftovers, and then we eat it all.
And then
every
it doesn't
time.
make it to the next.
There's
day.
no leftovers, but it is, sometimes you can pick your meals every week. Their
Right.
website, you can go look at them, click, read about them, full color, and or you can let them pick, which we've done a lot because I forget. And sometimes I'll get the recipe card and I'm like, I don't know about that. And every single time
Yep.
it is insane. We have had insane chicken, insane burgers and lettuce
The panko
wraps.
chicken with those lettuce wrap things that were
Oh.
like they taste like cheeseburgers with no bun. It was amazing.
And it teaches you how to cook. So I zest citrus now, people. I'm a zester.
So just go to hellofresh.com/knockemdeadfree and use code knockemdeadfree for free breakfast for life. 1 breakfast item per box while your subscription is active. That's insanely awesome. That's free breakfast for life, you guys, at hellofresh.com/knockemdeadfree and use promo code knockemdeadfree. That's KNOCKEMDEAD free, babies. Yeah.
So my grandma, she wore, it was called like Rushing Crimson's Day All Day Revlon lipstick. Grandma always had red
Bright
lips. Bright red. And she had her eyebrows tattooed on and her eyeliner tattooed on, but only underneath. I don't know. But she was beautiful. And that was grandma's signature, those red lips.
Yep.
And I sent that red lipstick, my sister and I did, to the funeral home. And she actually looked quite beautiful. But they did not use grandma's red lip stuff. They used this like coral color. So we're all in the receiving line at the wake where people are coming through because they wanted an open casket.
And grandma's hair was a little bubble.
It was a little tight, too tight bubble. It was like when she'd come home from the beauty parlor and I'd be like, you need to tease that out a little bit because you look like you have a little Art Garfunkel. And she would laugh. So our friend, Miss Judy, she goes, I guess, and asks them what happened to her lips because everyone's going, what's up with their lips? That doesn't look like. So I look across the room, and the funeral director is standing there holding this wand going like that, waving it at me. And I go, should I do this now? Should I do this? So some of my family members.
There was a group, man. This was a gang of women went over and
created kind of a barrier. I never thought I would.
It was a makeover.
My grandma.
In coffin makeover.
She was, and you guys need to know she is my best friend.
Yep.
She and I, there was not much left unsaid. And I knew how important this would be to her.
Yep.
The woman, the Friday before she passed away, she was nearly nonverbal and could barely walk, went to the beauty parlor to get her hair washed and blown out. That was grandma. So this was very important. So I got that lipstick and I fixed her lip stuff. And one of my cousins, I said, fix her hair. So she was like, are you sure? So she just started doing this with grandma's hair, fluffed it. And she looked like grandma, and nobody knows this, but I ended up tucking that Forever Crimson into her little suit pocket and sent her to Jesus with her red lipstick.
Oh, that's a nice little.
With my father, we put one of his friends put a 6-pack of beer, and another in the casket, and another one put a roll of duct tape. Because we used to joke all the time about he would hold everything. Yeah. We told stories. So
how did you describe it? You said when people are dead, the open casket, it's
how do we make this more horrifying?
Yeah.
Let me see. He's already dead. How do we really scare the shit out of everybody and make us? I want my last memory of this person to be horror.
To look like you're 3D printed.
Not even like off, but
and then everyone's like, he looks great. He looks great.
And that's weird too.
He's dead. He's actually dead. He don't look good.
Anything would look great for dead, right? Like any amount of lipstick or whatever.
If your arms are still attached.
Not a zombie. All right.
My grandfather's funeral was 3 days after he passed away in a really horrifying way from dementia, and he starved to death, right? And thirsted to death. And my grandma, they were married for 55 years. She walked right up to him, leaned over and kissed him on the lips. Mm-hmm. You know, that's just how she was business, very functional. And I said something to her about it later. And she said, well, of course I kissed him. He's the love of my life.
Oh.
Yeah. So she was, nothing was
Period.
wrong.
Just cleared it up. I cleared that shit up right there.
But also people should say cremation, burial, open casket. No open casket is always my vote.
Because here's the thing. Now people are arguing about you in an argument you can't be part of. So you can't even stop and go, guys, so make sure you just write it down. Guys, you're not bringing death to you. Death is death. You know, you're going to go when you're going to go. But it's so better if you love your family, make the aftermath a lot less of an aftermath and more of a celebration of you. That's what I want to do with Dad. I told everybody, I said, listen, he would not like, and I told him the story that he told me. My dad said, for many years, he goes, I don't care what you put me in. I'm dead. He goes, I want to be cremated, but during the service, I want you to put me in a cardboard box and put it on the floor. And he goes, and anybody who I've made mad in my life, they can walk up and take a fist right on me. And he said, then have a service, make it funny. And then at the end, he goes, I'm going to be cremated. Then I want you to take the ashes, put them in a douche bottle, find a hooker, and run me through one more time.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
That's
better than a life.
So many people go, that's horrifyingly cool.
So beautiful. Well, you look at how my uncle's service happened. That was like one of the most horrifying things that I've ever experienced. And for who he was in life. And then hundreds of people after that did a celebration of his life because everyone was just as traumatized by my dad and my grandfather's homophobia, that it was worth it to them to create this situation for this was his great send-off. And he was such a class act. He would have been horrified by that preacher and the music and all of it. It was just like, it was not great. And I had been kind of edged out of that at that time. My dad, his wife at that time did not want me to be part of much. And so I was several rows back with my sister, and my mom came, which also didn't make anybody happy. And after that, when we got ready to go to the actual graveside service, I had it. Like, you're not going to keep me out of this. So I got out and they all got in the limo and stuff. And I ended up getting out. My sister's driving my uncle's car. She floors it and I get out and I stop traffic and I start directing, and I get my brother in and I get my sister and me in, and I made us the front of the funeral procession because he liked us better, but also you guys are being assholes. So I'm going to be an asshole too.
That's another weird thing. There's a thing about funerals that people really make it about them in the aftermath. Like it's
100%.
Like they're important. Like when Dad died, his wife, she's I'm going to be sitting in the front row with all my people. Well, so here's what happened. Okay. Everybody knew this woman, and we're like, we don't like this woman. We don't know it. They told my dad. I said something my dad never said. I go, Dad, you've been divorced 5 times. This one ain't your fault. All the rest of them, I said, these were your fault. Yeah. So she had the front row. She had the front row right by the preacher up front, and she sat next to, I think, one of her niece or something was there, and everybody. Then it was me, Shannon, David, and on our side, and everybody sat behind us. There was nobody on her side of the church. So the entire they chose to like, nah, fuck that bitch. We're gonna sit over here.
But to be clear, on the other side of the church were all of his ex-girlfriends.
Oh, they all showed up.
The women he slept with, sitting together,
talking about how Kenny was so amazing. He was so charming, but God, he could be an asshole. But you know what?
That's what they all do. All the ones I've met. It's weird. The weirdest thing.
It's like how she talks about me.
Yeah.
Honestly, let's just be honest.
She's like the whole gaggle.
She knows
in one.
I'm being right. Yeah.
My mom was a very funny, full of life, dancing in public, singing in public, redheaded ball of fire artist. Yep. And she and I got through her whole sickness. I took care of her, and we got through it by laughing. That we laughed our way through it. And so I wrote stand-up for her service. I did for my grandfather as well, and killed. And
that's a performer.
He told me, he goes, you got to stop saying you killed.
At the funeral.
But I had people there in North Carolina coming up to me, old people from the church going, I want you to do my service.
And that's what, just
so then I wrote moms.
Before you finish up, see how people reacted to it doesn't have to be solemn or brutal.
Well, I did stand up for moms, and then found out later that my uncle was upset. of the way that I had done it. And I just think, like, you know, people, he and I ended up having a conversation about it, actually, but because what he thought it should be solemn and sad and reverent. But I knew my mom better. You know, I was closer to my mom. I knew what my mom wanted, and I knew how to most not efficiently, but to honor her. I knew how to do that, and I knew I did that.
It sounds like a good business idea to
Comedians
offer that as a
perform
service
at funerals.
Yeah,
even just
like
even just the writing part of it. If you could just go, hey, if you really want to
thread the line of
tell us a few things about him, and we'll send you.
Do me a favor, you write everything you want.
Yeah,
we'll punch it up a little bit, and then send it back to you, and you can practice it. I didn't even think about that, because here's what happened with Dad. I had people after Dad's service. My sister slayed. She did the funniest thing. I did it. I killed. And then we had, so we were killing. We were we were after, the first thing that happened was my uncle, who thought he was going to be a preacher. He ran for Congress years ago in Utah, North Hatch. And then he walked. So it's very solemn. I made the music. I was like, no, you can't play this. Pat picked some weird, some over the top stuff that Dad would have been like, the fuck is that? Literally. Yeah. So my Uncle Les gets up and starts to talk. And he does this really long, I may have talked about this. I don't think I've talked about it. Have I talked about it on this yet? He starts doing the speech. But the last time I saw Kenny, I was driving in from Utah, and on the way in my drive, I saw a woman. I pulled over to help her. And I got out to help her. And when I got to help her, she opened her door and it hit me in the face. And she goes, and my head started bleeding. And then she goes, and then for some reason, she thought I was going to molest her or something. And now we're in the funeral.
Wait, he's talking about molestation.
Wait. And he goes,
he's bleeding. Now we know he's bleeding.
And then he goes, my shirt got ripped. And he goes, and then these two guys pulled over.
Stop.
And then these two guys pulled over. And
did you murder the deceased here?
All of a sudden, I had to fight them. And he goes, I got in a fight with these two guys. My shirt got ripped. And he goes, this finally ended. And he goes, I drove to Kenny's house and I knocked on his door and he wouldn't let me in. And that was the last time I saw my brother. And I was like, and you remember everybody. So the show was on at the time when Dad died in 2001. Everybody was there. Like Jack and Brian were there. Keach didn't go, but Keach wrote my dad's obituary.
He ended up
for
at
Time
Kathy's
magazine.
House for something. She always talks about it. That Stacy came to her house to.
Why was no one calling the police during this?
So anyway, he did write a big thing, and it ended up in USA Today about my dad, which is really cool. So at one point, I turn around, I look at Jack, and I go. He goes, and then because you got to remember, if you looked at the TV show, everybody thought these stories were crazy.
Yeah. And
then they see my uncle do this at my dad's funeral, they're like, oh
yeah.
And then at one point, my sister looks back at me, and I looked at my uncle. This went on forever. He kept telling the story.
His alibi.
And I finally looked at him, and I just went.
Yeah. Yeah.
I gave my uncle the rap sign at my dad.
Yeah, we had the same thing.
But I heard my dad, just so you know, we were talking about this whole thing.
We're going to do a whole other episode about this.
I had a moment while he was doing it. I'm stunned. I don't know what to do because it's a funeral. What do you do? Mm-hmm. I'm standing on the end because me and my sister were going up, and I hear my dad's voice right here go, the fuck is he talking about? Mm-hmm.
We're going to do a whole other episode. I was going to combine that into this one, but there's so much because I've had a lot of experiences like that now too.
Yeah.
So what happened at yours?
I'm debating if I should even go into details.
I'm the same because people are alive.
Go ahead.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, I keep getting phone calls.
My uncle's dead, but I talked about it to him to his face after
his uncle, and we're going to tell part 2 of that story before we go. But his uncle, part 1B, is he performed that show where he told that story about his uncle giving a rape alibi.
I did a bit one of my shows.
And he didn't know he was in Salt Lake City. Uncle Les was in the back of the room watching him do the bit.
I slay with that story. I get off stage. My uncle's going, hey, how's it going? I'm like, oh, shit.
Oh, my God.
I go, you saw that story? He goes, yeah, man, that was a weird day because I was just out of my mind. I don't know what's going on that day.
Okay.
Wait, did he say he made it up?
Never addressed it. No, he never addressed it.
But there's a part 2 of Uncle Les after you say yours.
So this is so, just like you said, people get so weird at these things. I don't know what the fuck they're thinking. They turn into different people.
Yes.
Well, and the thing is, I noticed if I just focused on my dad, like they're often trying to cover
the fact that they didn't show up, the fact that they didn't help out, they're covering their guilt, their inadequacies. Yeah. It's not about that person that passed away.
Right. So at the end of my dad's funeral, all the seating was a thing. Everybody, it's important to where certain people sit. It's like a fucking weird hierarchy.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone's like, well, no, I'm center seat.
Yeah. I'm more important.
You love me more.
Yeah, exactly. That's the weirdest.
Yeah, and everybody. So at his kids, I'm one of 6, which is a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, no shit.
It's just fucking, now it's times 6 everything. Everybody had a rose, and we were all in a line, and everybody at the very end when we were exiting the thing, everybody just gets up one at a time, goes to the casket, lays the rose down. It's a rose for my phone.
Yeah,
right.
Because your dad was big into roses.
And everybody had something to say, And one of my siblings gets up and decides to take this opportunity to talk about
here we go,
how she's single, and she modeled her dates on my dad, and she's still single, and she's so sad that he's gone, and it almost like turned into like he was like her date. It was the weirdest, oh God. Yeah. So my other brother, who's next in line, had to not only did he have to wrap it up, he fucking pulled like an Apollo theater with a fucking cane and was just like, okay, we're going to stop right here. Grabs her like this, and he puts his down, and he's like, okay. And he just shuffled her off because it got weird.
He became Sandman at the Apollo theater, sweeping her off. But it's...
So it sounded like she was single because he was gone?
Because she they made it look like she was like his shining star. She lost her man. And that was the man in her life. That was the man in her life. And I think those are actually the actual words. Oh God, it was so weird.
Yeah. God. But everybody gets weird. And then we had the other side of it is that the people that, it's so fun. I find that the people that purely loved my dad, Bob Marshall, got up and he told the fucking funniest story. When it ended up in the show, the story they would go to this party at Lake Shasta, and this is why I don't never want to celebrate. And there's people that want to get grievances out to you. There's people that at a funeral will be like, you know what he did to me? Whoa,
I don't give a shit.
My sister actually said at my grandma's funeral, just this a few months ago, to my grandma's church. I think we all know that my mom, how did she say it? About my mother, who's been dead for 6 years. My mother wasn't really good at love and was married a bunch of times. Something where I was like,
what? But why? Yeah.
But my mom at my grandmother's funeral in front of all the people and I don't know why, but I was I think I might have almost made him bleed. I jabbed him so hard, my mom would have died all over again.
And I did that. I went.
You just never know what's going to come out when people are upset.
Yeah, related or not.
So the funerals we've been through, I would give people advice on this. I would say, it really you have to, it's the same way I feel about weddings. When we got married, I was like, everybody who's had an opinion, I go, it's Rachel's day. I go, no matter what, this is her princess day. I don't give a shit what you want. Whatever she wants is what's going to happen. If she wants what you want, that's fine. But she decides first. And I told everybody, I put a kibosh on it. Also at the funeral, same thing. We're celebrating their life. That's what you tell people. And we're not going to celebrate your life. Whatever problems you have, you didn't deal with them while he was here. You're not going to deal with them while he's dead.
Yeah.
You can deal with them by yourself later. Yeah. We are going to celebrate mom or dad's life. That's what you do. And what we did is that Shannon rocked it, and then Bob Marshall got up the story. It ended up in the story. He got up and told the story. They went to Lake Shasta. They used to party all night on this houseboat. My dad gets up in the middle of the night drunk, pees off the top of the houseboat. They used to just pee into the water off the top of the houseboat. He does this 3 times at night because he's been drinking. He peed into the driver's seat of his own boat that was tied up next to the houseboat. 3 times.
It was white. It did look like a urinal. So to his credit.
But that's who my dad was. And the people that, it's funny because you really get in a funeral, and the same with mom's funeral too, you have to be as authentic about the person as possible, because what happens is that person was always that person. and everybody, there is a sense of relief. Like stories you told about mom, the grandma too. There's a sense of, oh, right, that's our person, because a lot of people can't get up and speak.
You gotta laugh about it. My grandma was, she's been gone 4 months now, I think. And she was she and I, that's all we did was laugh. Like she would come stay with us and just let loose. We would laugh and laugh. And so I was sitting next to her. She had a recliner next to her recliner. And that's where we always sat and watched Hallmark and ate fattening food and laughed. And she said she knew she was dying. She wanted me to write her eulogy. Was it her eulogy or no, her obituary.
For the paper.
She wanted me to write her obituary because she wanted to read it before, you know.
I love that.
And
I gotta make sure it's right.
But that was Grandma. Grandma had planned out her whole funeral service, and throughout her later years, people would die and get crossed off, and more people would get put in. Who was singing? Who was playing the piano? I mean, she told us. I think I've said this before, but she told us in Scotland that she said, "I gotta update that, but I'm afraid to do it because I've killed 3 preachers." And so one person from the family was in to sing, and then she was out, crossed off. Grandma actually called her to tell her to sing before she passed away, then called her back and said, "You're not singing." That was Grandma. She laid things out, and that was helpful. But she said to me,
uncomfortable at the funeral, but helpful.
It was. But she said to me, "I want you to write my obituary, and I'd love to read it before I go."
What an honor. What an honor.
Right. So I, of course, don't take it like an honor. I take it as an opportunity to make her laugh. And I actually typed this up and print it out because I said, I go, "Grandma, does it cost per line?" And she goes, "Well, yes." I said, "Well, what does it cost per line?" And she goes, "Well, what? You want me to leave you some money to pay for it too?" And I go, "Well, look, I don't want to get into too many lines because," and she laughs and we move on. I type up and print up at her house, and I still have it. I carry it around with me in my iPad case. It says, "Jean Lawrence died. She was loved." And loved has a dash and it's cut off because I don't want to go to a new line. It's 1 line long. And I tell her the next day, I said, "Grandma, I wrote it. And I just want you to," and she said, "Honey, thank you so much." And she's very ready to be adored and have this beautiful thing. And she goes, "Jean Lawrence died. She was loved." and then she goes, she loses it. She loses it.
That's what's great of her. She really got it.
Oh, we laughed about that.
You know, the blessing for her was that she was grandma all the way to the end, man. She didn't lose her ability to laugh and joke and so I'll say this, people. Look, someone's going to die in your family. People are going to get together. It's going to get weird. Trust me, it just gets weird. It's something.
No matter how much you think it won't. Yeah,
it's something that it's impossible for all of us, and we all get weird. I locked it down. I'm just going to beat this bitch that want to take my dad's stuff. I had a plan. I was like, and so I got weird in my own way.
Yeah, me too.
But when it came to the funeral, just keep reminding everybody around you that, hey, we're here to celebrate them. We're here to celebrate them. Yeah.
This is not an intervention for you to resolve your issues.
Yeah, or how much stuff. Like, people got so fucking weird about stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and
people get very weird about stuff.
And I've had people in the past that I've heard about and they were like, "Man, you know, he didn't leave me anything." And at one point I want to go, well, you're supposed to handle your shit.
Yeah.
You're supposed to get your stuff.
I have no attachment to stuff, like with my dad, with my mom, with my grandma, and you're right. I do see that my go-to is to lock it down and do what's right and do what grandma asked me to do and do it the way she wanted it done. And so I started, before I left, my sister and I, we cleaned out her house completely. I mean, we gave everything to my cousins and stuff, but I mean, and I can see, I certainly heard through the grapevine that some of my family was like, she's not even, cold in the ground yet. And it was because she told me what she wanted. and I was going to get it done for her. Right. Well, I can see that to other people that looks harsh. It looks, you know.
I didn't even think about that because I remember being there and we were just trying to make sure that everything was done what Grandma wanted. But I guess I got
and that I didn't leave everybody with everything, all that work to do and stuff.
Yeah,
like
that we had to come back to LA after the funeral, and we had.
I stayed for 2.5 weeks after. It was that she and I had conversations. She told me what she wanted. She knew I would carry it out, and so I did, but I can see how that would have looked. The whole thing was, my family was upset because my grandma had changed her will and hadn't told anyone. Certainly might have softened all of that had she let people know, but that was her choice. And even just like really surreal stuff that happened. I won't go into it too much now, but I am going to do a whole comedy special about it next. My sister ended up finding some things that showed that family members were saying some really heinous and awful things about me.
Wow.
And about her. And I was in that house for 2 months taking care of her, mostly by myself. My sister came the second month.
Yeah, that happens.
And even my kindergarten teacher, who, and they can't all be heroes, folks. I thought some of them just are petty, insecure, short people, bitter. So I introduced my kindergarten teacher to my Uncle Philip as this hero. My whole life, I've always thought she was a hero. Sure, kindergarten. She taught me, you know, and my sister ended up finding some stuff where my kindergarten teacher was part of that as well with family members. And she'll be, don't worry, she'll be in the next special. But it was just sort of like, what in the hell is going on? Like everybody's shit is operating inside of this.
That's
you know?
the one thing it will bring everybody's shit to start floating. Your shit, everybody's shit floats to the top, man.
And it can become a little like a civil war. Like certain siblings will pair off, and they'll be and I think plotting against other ones.
And when that happens, people, I think the best thing to do is go, hey, we're all upset. We all miss them. We're all upset about this.
Most of you are upset.
Let's
get
right. except for Ken.
Some of you just like, want stuff.
I'm ordering pizza. What is it?
Yeah.
Well, that's the whole thing is that like there is, and also if you're gonna fight over stuff, you have to remember, well, did this person want this? To me, at one point, I'm like, you keep it, fine.
Oh, you know what? I love the when we went through it, everyone's like, I want the fill in the blank because when this one time. We had a conversation and it really touched my heart that this 65 Mustang was really...
I'm sorry, wait, what? The Bullet Mustang that's worth 140 grand? That one?
Exactly. The 67 GTO, it was really, we had a moment.
He told me he wanted me to have it.
Yeah.
We had some of that.
And right.
And we're
where did you write that down?
But it's not in the, there's no, but he wanted me to have it.
Yeah. How many beers after?
We often discussed it.
Oh,
but he didn't tell us.
Right. He didn't tell any of us. Gotcha.
Yeah. It's very,
I gave his cars away. I gave Shannon got a car. I gave David a car. We made his tools. There was some tools that he'd made. Like he'd made my dad, because he worked on so much shit. He
was a caveman.
Yeah, he was a cave.
He kind of created.
So I grabbed these two. I said I have my own tools. Cool I just want these two things. Stuff to like because and then
I'm sorry. Pause.
Yeah.
So when I got divorced, my ex came in. I had a 4-car garage at the house we had that was just Craftsman and give me this Snap-on. Give me these tool cabinets that were tall, and I had
nice.
There was a motor that was worth 36 grand and $58,000 worth of tools, plus all the wheels for Corvettes and stuff. And she let her family come down, and they just
got it. But all he ever talked about was none of that. Was those tools that were his dad
that he had made.
And he put tools.
He put KT in them. He actually took one of those Dremel tools and put KT in them.
Is there any way to track down who has them?
No, we tried in court for years, and it was just never addressed. dress.
That is evil level, like Dark Soul.
I like that none of the other stuff.
Yeah,
has
like
really
now, now you're in. You've seen the show. Now you're in.
Yeah,
okay,
right.
Wait, the tools? No,
it's so personal to your lineage.
In the garage with him, built using those tools.
Like it's not just like little things that you owned or things that it's something that was passed down from your dad and he made.
And that's what I find.
My mom's paintings. When my mom's paintings finally came to our home, I just sat down and sobbed because of everything. Money, jewelry,
money spent,
whatever. These paintings coming home to me, it is, I would give everything else up, but keep these paintings.
And they
and
they split them up. You guys were very good at doing that, and I think that makes
my sister was awesome.
Here's the problem, guys. When there is a splitting of the goods, we'll call it, the distribution of the goods. Be very clear that what you do with that, will actually affect the rest of your life with your siblings and the people in your family. If you're an asshole and demanding and you guys can't work it out, you're going to take love out of your life that the person who died would not have wanted to happen. The last thing that person wants. So fuck it. Keep the house. My sister and I. Keep the car. What? Okay.
My mom originally had 3 storage units, and all of her paintings, large scale paintings that had come home from Kuwait, and everything was in there. We're down to half of one now. So we have made great headway, but my sister and I went there, and my brother opted not to come. And we sat there, and every year we'd go to the beach house there. And so Randy, my stepdad, or my mom would slide the box of booze that we bought from Aunt Kathy's Purple Drinks or whatever inside the door and lock it, because grandma didn't want it in her house. And she was already hiding so much Chardonnay underneath the pantry that she had no room. So my sister and I sat there for how long? A week? And it was so heart-wrenching. One storage unit was our childhood before she went to the Middle East. One storage unit was the Middle East, and one was after. And it was a catalog of her life, our lives and her lives. And we sat day after day after day, just swigging straight out of the liquor bottles of nasty, like orange mandarin vodka and pineapple rum and crap we would never touch. And even the preacher's wife, Miss Judy, who's a longtime family friend, showed up to get something we were going to give her. And my sister was so past it. She was just standing there holding the bottle, and Miss Judy's talking, and my sister just swigs from it. And I just lost it. We were laughing so hard, but it was horrible. But my sister and I feel like we did that hard thing together. We navigated it, and we really did split things up in a fair way. My brother later said, I don't care as much about stuff as the two of you do. That's why I didn't come. Now, that's not true. That's not why he didn't come.
But a great backhanded insult.
But a great, to make yourself above it all. And I said to him, it's not about that. It's a horrible thing that we did. It was, we both got sick. It was sobbing. It was heartbreak. It was devastation. And we could have used, I said, a third person to help shoulder that pain. That's
especially
what it's
as funny
about.
As he is.
Oh gosh.
So that's what I'm saying is that like that. So that was, it's going to be hard either way. It's going to be hard. Someone dies that a bunch of people love, and that family comes together. It's going to be hard. Yeah. So you got a couple of choices there. You guys get together and you celebrate that person's life together. You figure out you are everyone's, what would they have want? Don't fight over shit. Because look at we got money from my dad. We sold his house. Had we not sold his house, it's worth like $600,000 more than it was. And if you think like that, how much did you really love that person? Like if you're thinking like that, how much did you really love that person?
Well, that's the key.
So the reality
what would
is,
they have wanted?
But I was also saying that you want to heal yourself, get together, and grieve together.
It can be a unifying thing.
Yes, it can be a unifying thing if you.
Yeah, I've never seen one, but it can be a unifying. I imagine.
Sure, it could. Well,
we did. We had a common enemy. We had a common enemy in Pat, and that was very helpful. We had a common enemy, but don't make your family enemy. Like Pat was. I'll never forget, man. That woman. when I told him, this one isn't you, I go, I'll give you the other 5, 100% you. This one, not you. And he just kind of looked at me, and she came home one day from the day I saw it happen. I saw it happen in front of me. He had 4 heart attacks. He'd gone to Costco, which is fucking Costco. He'd come home with 6 bags of groceries with a list of shit that she wanted. And he was loading the refrigerator, and she came home, looks in the fridge. She goes, where's my whatever, Dr. Pepper's, whatever. And he goes, they didn't have it. She goes, yes, they did. You just didn't see it. And she yelled at him. And I go, and you know me, I'm not really good at not holding back, and go, hey, this man with 4 heart attacks just went shopping for you. Mm-hmm. He went shopping. I've never seen him do that in my life. So why don't you back off him? And he kind of turned, and my dad never did this. He turned and he walked around the dishwasher and he went to the garage. And she just looked at me, stunned. I go, back off him.
Yeah.
Good. And that was it. And
he needed backup by that point.
Yeah. So,
how do you yell at somebody for not picking up the thing that you wanted?
It was
you motherfucker. You go get it.
Sometimes Costco doesn't have that shit anyway. It's like, but she was such a
Costco giveth and taketh
away.
So
I always say it was fun to just slap that will on and go, nah, you ain't in this.
So before we go, because I did say we were going to do Uncle Les Part 2, what I love about this ending is that I had always heard this story about Uncle Les. It's in his legendary. Second special. It's legendary. Aunt Kathy, his dad's little sister, is the nicest person on the planet and so kind. And so I would always ask her, is that true? And she's not the kind of person to go, yeah, it's true. He's crazy. I think you raped some people. She would just be like, like that, right? So Uncle Dennis and Aunt Kathy come, and so Grandma Titus passes away, his grandma, his dad's mother. I didn't know she was alive the whole time we were dating and then married because she was in a home and nobody talked about her. Nobody saw her. It's the weirdest family dynamic ever. She was fine. But she was alive, apparently. I've never met her. And she passed away several years ago. Kathy and Dennis come to our show. I think we did Santa Cruz. And Dennis, I'm talking to them and they say, well, we'll come back to your hotel and have a drink with you. And I said, okay, before they drive home. And he goes, we got to tell you guys something. And I'm like,
now when Kathy and Dennis go, no, we're going to have to tell you what happened. We're like, they're great. It's like when my sister and her husband get together. Great storytellers.
So I always wondered if it was really or if he made it more colorful about Uncle Les, because he's a comedian. Mm-hmm. So I guess Kathy told Uncle Les he wanted to speak at their mother's funeral. And she told him...
She said, you get 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Because of my dad, she was like, you get 3 minutes. You keep going over. You can't do the open mics at the funerals anymore. If you don't get the fuck off stage.
You're going to get bumped.
Yeah.
And as soon as she says that, Uncle Dennis goes, Chris, he spoke for 22 minutes. I timed it. 22 minutes before she wrapped him at their mother's funeral. And now, what did he say?
So, again, Uncle Les had this weird other life. He was a Mormon, but had this weird like he would wreck cars in the middle of the night. Like he'd disappear for 3 days, and then he'd balled up his car in the desert. Like it was shit like this all the time.
And he'd go visit Kathy and Dennis at their beautiful home. He would park his car in the driveway and would sleep in the front seat in their driveway at night. And then Dennis said he'd bring a plastic grocery bag in the morning with his toothbrush. He'd walk by him, go into use the shower, and then go back out to the car. I don't know. So.
Okay. So he gets up and he starts talking about his mom. He goes, years ago I was on a mission and I was in Colombia and I got arrested. And now wait. That's what everybody wants to do at the funeral. They want to go stop. But he goes, and I was in the cell. And
every word it gets worse.
And he goes, I remember being in there and thinking, man, I don't know how long I'm going to be here. And he goes, so I started counting all the tiles. And he goes, I counted all the tiles.
You're thinking took days.
I'm thinking it's like an old prison with a mosaic of some shit. Yeah. Like I'm saying, like it's like Mary Magdalene, like it made out of tile. And he goes, it was 18 by 12.
So Dennis says he goes on and on about this cell and about the mission trip and all this.
So many questions.
And how
what
So finally, Kathy tells us this, and if Kathy tells it, it was real because she doesn't want to say anything bad about anybody.
Her barometer
I guess she had to wrap him at 22 minutes.
He got the rap sign again. That's 2 funerals he got the rap sign at.
Ends his performance. She goes, Christopher, he never spoke about our mother. He never mentioned our mother. And then
Dennis goes, and he never said what he got arrested for. He never said, what did you get arrested for?
Tell me the end of this story.
To this day, my Uncle Dennis is like,
scream
what the
about
fuck did you get arrested for?
He is so wound up about it. He wouldn't say, we sat there waiting. He never said why they arrested him. So.
And why was he there in the first place? Why was he on a mission? What was the mission?
He was
Columbia?
Mormon mission, church mission.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But he got arrested again. Let's add another layer. He's on a church mission and got arrested.
What kind of church was this?
Church of
trading children.
So guys,
why would you get arrested? Where were the rest of the people on the mission trip? Because usually you're all together.
Why didn't they bail you out? By the way, this whole eulogy for my grandmother, who he didn't mention, my grandmother. Is this weird?
That's beside the point.
How come he just gets up? Every one of his eulogies was alibis. He would just get up and give an alibi.
But not ticketed. So it wasn't a speeding. He was arrested and detained in a Mexican jail.
See, this is my uncle. That's what my uncle looks like all the time.
Okay.
What are we talking about? So guys, again, celebrate the person when they die. Celebrate the person. Get with the family and create a team.
Yeah, you may not like it, but we kept saying, what would Grandma want? Grandma would die all over again if we fought, if we argued, if family was upset. Grandma wanted family to be together and be happy and love each other. And so you have to just constantly think how they would have wanted it to
and
go.
Enjoy the weird. I've noticed that I've started to enjoy the weird. Because I've seen it enough now. I'm like, oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
Who's going to snap?
I just decided I'm going to write a special about it.
Yeah. And for God's sakes, if you get arrested, that's not the time to tell the story.
Or tell the story. What did you get arrested for? We're hated. We're like, but
and why does it make you think of Nana?
Yeah.
What does she have to do with? Wait a second.
But how hard does it take out 12 by 8? You can just do.
That has been his sticking point for 5 years.
Because he was so dramatic about it. It's like, the fuck. It's not that.
So it was a minor offense. Because it was
it's 96 tiles.
Really trying to.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. But
wait, hold on.
Oh, 80. Jeez. Just 10 times 18 would be 180. And then you have 2 more 18s. So you have to add 36.
I was thinking 8. Sorry.
So 2. Okay.
Wait, 8. 18 by 10 is 180.
See what I mean?
18 times 12.
This could go on for 10 episodes.
This was a eulogy.
It was 196.
It was very fun to have the crew together again for this one. Thank you guys for everything that you said about this podcast on the road. We've gotten some really cool feedback. We heard some really great things. And guys, again, please tell people about this podcast. This is episode 5. Yep.
The entire point of this is to help us all get through what we all have to go through.
Yeah, we're
all gonna have to go through.
Might as well.
So you might as well have some insight into some people who have gone through
laugh.
Yeah, and the first time it happens, it'll be devastating. We hope this helps you a little bit. Thanks.
For myself, Rachel Bradley, Christopher Titus, and Ken Hylinder, thank you guys so much. We'll see you next month.
Bye, guys.
There could still be only one on this one.